has, of course, been a huge buzz about the startup environment, particularly here in Bengaluru, but of course in India in general. Now, putting some hard figures to that sense of buzz is NASSCOM, and its president, Mr. R Chandrashekhar, joins us now. Now, you've just released that report about what the startup environment is looking like this year. For you, what are the big highlights, the numbers which really you feel would make people say, wow?
Well, first and foremost, we are the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the world. So that's the first big wow number. The second thing is that compared to last year, we've moved up from being the fourth largest ecosystem in the world to the third largest.
Okay.
If all goes well, next year by this time we should be the second largest.
All right. So overtaking Israel last year and third only to the US and the UK.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
That's correct. So, so that's certainly a big development. We've seen nearly 1,200 startups coming up this year. That's our estimate, which means 3 to 4 of them coming up on a daily basis.
Okay.
We've seen almost $5 billion. That's the projected figure in terms of investments happening during the current year, which is again a big step up from what was there last year.
Okay.
So all said and done, the startup ecosystem is really booming. In the
And
country.
it's a very young ecosystem.
It's a very young ecosystem. The average age of the entrepreneurs is just around 27.
27 is the average age, all right. And how many of them are under 35? 72%, I think, the report said?
Well, most of them.
Most of them are under 35.
That's right.
Now, is Bengaluru really still the startup capital of the country? What are the big regions in the country here?
I think Bengaluru is certainly the startup capital, just as it has been the IT capital. It's following behind, it would be the NCR and then Mumbai. But there are other locations like Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, which have also been doing fairly well.
Now, your report also talks about perhaps desired policy changes or policy follow-throughs to help this system even more. For that, again, what do you think are the biggest requests from us?
I think we see, as I said a little earlier, yes, the startup ecosystem is doing well and it's growing rapidly. But does this mean that we don't need to do anything more? I think what we have brought out is the fact that while in absolute terms we may be doing reasonably well, in terms of the potential that we have as a country, the size that we have, the the number of qualified technical people, the whole buzz about entrepreneurship today, youngsters are not afraid to go and start up anymore. They are not looking for the highest paid executive job or the best university abroad in which they could get admission. Most of them are fired by this desire to build a startup to make an impact here in the country. That's a good thing, and I think that's the energy which the country really needs to harness for its own growth.
And the policy needed for this?
So we have brought out that there are at least 10 areas where active action is required by the government to ensure that we really realize our full potential as a country in the area of innovation and technology startups. And we've listed them out. They cover a diverse set of areas, from infrastructure to taxation to enabling investment to rebranding. So a whole lot of different areas which have been listed out elaborately and shared with the government, and we are continue to work closely with the government, and we are hopeful that over the next few months, as the government unveils its policy, that many of these issues would be looked at. Would be looked at, because I think what we have seen in the last couple of years is a somewhat disconcerting trend of a number of companies starting in India, doing reasonably well, and after they've gone to the second stage or third stage, then to relocate to Singapore or the US or somewhere. Now that hurts the country in many ways, because the value that is getting created, and we know that they do witness explosive growth at a certain stage, but that value then does not get captured within India, neither the tax on it nor the benefits of it. All of those go outside the country. That's a big loss to the country. So we have to find a way to capture that value, whether it is by addressing the investment issues, the taxation issues, the IPR issues, the infrastructure issues, the training issues, the branding issues. So there are all of these different areas which we have listed out quite elaborately.
To make it more attractive for these successful startups to actually stay on here.
Yes, to make successful startups, the first and foremost is to increase the whole catchment. While, as I said, there is a rising trend and it's no longer looks down upon to have a startup. In fact, it's now become highly prized qualification to have done a startup. So, but what we need is more of the young people who are coming out of these institutions, the premier institutions. We need more of them to experiment with their ideas, to look at solutions for to issues and problems both within the country and across the world. And this is a generation which has stars in its eyes and which doesn't see any limits to what they can achieve. And that's something I think which really needs to be harnessed for the country.
Finally, there's one figure there. You could talk about a 50% growth of women-founded startups from 6% to 9%, but still a tiny fraction. Is NASSCOM doing anything to particularly address this, to encourage more women, or is it just a general?
Well, NASSCOM has been, encouraging a lot of women to come into this area. We have, in fact, some special programs like GIT and so on, Girls in Tech, which have been targeted at encouraging more women to come in. Because just as youngsters were in the past a little shy of getting into this field, the same is probably true of women till some time ago. But now I think slowly all those shackles are breaking off, and we will certainly see a rising trend, and I think that's a good thing because innovation is not a monopoly of any gender.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Well, NASSCOM President Mr. R Chandrashekhar there. Yes, it's not just an image. The startup environment in India is indeed booming. With Govind Murthy, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
From the south to the north, the startup space is what everybody is watching and no one wants to be left behind. What better way to attract young entrepreneurs than to make startups a government priority? Rajasthan organized a startup festival. Rajasthan has been home to startups like the Hello English app, Car Dekho and Hippo Cabs. And Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje has earmarked 55 crores to start up the industry in Rajasthan. I was at the Startup Fest a few days ago and I caught up not only with young entrepreneurs buzzing with ideas, but also the Chief Minister herself. Rajasthan's big push for startups in the state. 55 crores kept aside by the industry's department to promote startups. According to surveys, Jaipur is the 8th most happening city in India for startups. Hello English, Google's hottest selling educational app in India, the brainchild of a young Jaipur-based couple, Nishant and Priyanshu Patni, helps learners pick up English in an app that's formatted like a game.
Today we have more than 30 lakh individuals who are studying English through the app from 11 different vernacular languages in India. The reason why we decided to do an app for Android was that Android is the market leader in the space, particularly when we look at this segment, which is aspiring individuals who are getting their first smartphones, etc. This is pretty much the Android market.
Hippo Cabs, a taxi aggregator service between Jaipur and Delhi, started by brothers Sagar and Sahil Agarwal. Launched just 5 months ago, the brothers, one an engineering dropout, the other a qualified CA, who decided to enter into the startup business, say they are now running 90% to capacity.
I was in CA final, then we came up with the idea of Hippo Cabs. So I left my CA final and he dropped his college, and from last 5 months we both were working on trekking this Hippo Cabs.
What are Hippo Cabs?
Hippo Cabs is an intercity shared cab service which is available on Jaipur-Delhi route right now. So in this, a person has just to pay for a seat, not for the complete cab, even if the rest of the cab is empty.
More than 40 such youngsters from Rajasthan with innovative, even disruptive ideas will now be the thrust area for Rajasthan government startup policy.
Because we believe that this is the future, and I keep thinking to myself, these are world beaters. So it's a question of just being able to give them the kind of support that they require to get moving. And if they happen, then the state happens.
A startup oasis will help incubate their ideas. The government's aim to push at least 500 startups. 55 crores set aside, but they're banking more on angel investors and venture capitals to net at least 500 crores.
They have the brains, they are smart, but they don't have the money, they don't have the capital. So therefore what happens in a startup, like the government is supporting, and we are looking at aiming at 15 lakh jobs in the next 5 years, and startups is going to create also a lot of jobs. So I think it's very imperative in the industrialization process.
Rajasthan is the 4th state in the country to come up with a startup policy. But is the infrastructure ready?
To have any startup to survive or thrive, we need 4 things, what I call enable, nurture, incubate, and invest, right? So if you look, Startup Oasis, which is doing this event today, which is doing the incubation part.
Rajasthan Industrial Investment Corporation, or RICO, has a full-time incubation cell called Startup Oasis. But along with pushing infrastructure, it also needs better telephone and net connectivity. And the key word, investment. As the government has made clear, it will only pitch in with some funding. The rest has to come from a public-private partnership. In Jaipur, with cameraman Dinesh Pradhan, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV. While India is showing why this is the best time to start up in the country, on the other side of the break, we talk on whether India can have its own Silicon Valley.